Greetings and welcome. This is Psychic Medium Roberto, and I truly hope you are doing well. I'm guided by Spirit. Welcome to Paris, ancient portals. Now, if we go to our map, we first looked at Rome, and of course, with a portal comes the Vatican City. We looked at even people of that time. And we discovered very good information there. In order to understand what we're doing, during this time when we looked at Rome, just a quick recap, there was a change in calendar during the 1800s from the Jules calendar to the Gregorian. Now, in this episode, we are going to go back to the Jules calendar. And we're going to look at Julius Caesar, the time of his birth. We're going to look at his assassination, bastards I want to say. And then to continue a thread throughout the series, we're going to do some calendar work, especially for the enthusiasts, so that we understand, even myself, we understand origins. We don't have to fool ourselves. All information is available. It's not hocus pocus, something new. I'm on a personal journey, and I know many of you are also on a journey. And thank you for your continued support, emails, comments. And for the members, thank you so much. There's been a spike recently. Really appreciate your contribution to the channel. Without it, I would have a black screen, right? So, Jules calendar, what is going on here? So, on the creation, we have January 1, so at the start of a year. So, we already got that technology. In other words, we say the year begins January 1, which is what we believe today. Now, part of the series, we're going to look at temperature, what was going on, and who was in town at the time. So January 1, we already have a natural conflict. It's a natural conflict. I would say 45 BC. BC. So there's already organization with Julian calendar, 4711-2. That is a high level. I almost want to say it's like the king, because we are ancient kind of thing. I mean, in those days, what were the Roman emperors regarded as kind of lesser gods or whatever it was? I don't know. I don't know that antiquity. I've always enjoyed history, but never gone deep. Let's go deep. So the next day we see 4812-3. So that also, okay, so 4711-2, what I also want to say there was, so laws are being set. There is laws being handed down, laws. So I would imagine as part of, I mean, it's obviously becoming Julius Caesar calendar, right? When was he assassinated? 44 BC, 44. A year and a bit later, Julius Caesar would be murdered once this started, right? Because we are in the intention. See, I'm not liking what I'm seeing already in the intention. The intention almost starts on a negative foot, in my opinion. So 4, start of a 4, so we're looking at the intention of the first day of the Jules calendar. So 4, there must have been an instruction. So we can imagine a 4 is usually a military instruction. So with a 5 in the middle can be a political number. 5 is politics. So one can surmise human interference here. I've always had this thing about things. Human interference. Like people make a big deal. Why didn't you say it? It was that term for that thing properly. Blah, blah, blah. Was that man-made or human-made or synthetic? What is natural about that you're getting upset about? So we've got a 5 in the middle of the day. 50 outcome 5 can be, it's a political move. 50, it's a wider political group. I'm keeping in mind, would their government have been as sophisticated as contemporary governments? So 50 outcome 5 can speak about the political grouping. We'll have to get confirmation. Well, 5 is the political number. So if we look in the +9, we've got a 5, 6, 11, 2. So yeah, politics and law. So this is where we could even surmise, because the whole tax bullshit came from this oak, right? Came from Julius Caesar. Give to Caesar what Caesar demands. And there's the 5 there. Bully for money. I'm in charge. We'll even call the calendar by my name, you motherfuckers. Come on, you peasants, we'll feed you bread and blood this weekend. Bring your slaves, bread and blood. So 14.5. See, there's bullshit in the air here. There's a manipulation that's happened here. So this is like, well, it's man-made. It's man-made. I don't think we're going to find God here. This is purely man-made. Well, 9 would be God. But 50 outcome 5, if we to believe the Roman baths stories and the boys, lots of boys, like our friends there in Greece, not to deflect from Rome, but by all accounts, 50 outcome 5, cesspool. 50 outcome 5, cesspool, debauchery. 14.5, older men, younger boys. And it goes on for days and days. So staying with the first day, the action. So 7, we can say justice, the law. It's a derivative of the law. 7. 8. So there's a message being sent, possibly message 8. 8 in Roman, I don't want to be presumptuous because we only hear what we know from people that have dusted away carcasses and things. 8. So 8 can bring around, well, 8 is a very violent number. I'm just trying to see if there are signs of murderous intent as this thing was taking over. There's definitely a lot of red wine and boys. We do see some imbalances in the action area. We'll come back to this 8. I'm not picking up the right vibe there. Of course, the next day in the +6 we see a portal sequence, 9 + 9 sequence. So there's an issue, 9 + 9, conflict of gods. We have a conflict of gods here. So whoever was praying to this one, whoever was praying to this other one, 4, 5, 9 for the number. See, there's been some kind of manipulation here. So this can be, you know, when you get so this is a good example. So we have obviously in some way, shape or form, some will say, well, obviously Julius Caesar, what we know about him today, this was all his design. It's bludgeoned by human thumbprint. It's forced, it's manipulated, it's five, it's bullshit. Whenever there's a human involved, we pick up fives. Now, of course, we are going to flip optics as well to see who else was in the tunnels and the underskirts and bellies of Rome and Paris, and get confirmation. Because remember, in the, I believe it was in the, was it the Vampiri show with Rome itself? Let me just check here quickly. I want to just confirm something. I know I did write it down somewhere. Yes. So Rome, from Ep 1, the review of the first day of the Gregorian calendar, we see the horde. We see the horde number 50, outcome 5, Vampiri. The horde is around. He's Roman, right? The horde. Vampiri. So now, when we've gone back as far as in the Rome episode, we went back as far as the 1500s. The 1500s in the main, right? When we looked at the Vatican, ironically, remember, same day, January 6th, as the riots that took place on Capitol Hill there. Full Vampiri outlay. Now we're seeing earlier in time evidence of the horde. BC 45 BC, the horde, linked to a Roman. So now keep in mind, this is also the thing about this kind of numerology, and it should be really for the rest. I can't speak for the others. When we tap into someone's timeline, and he is connected obviously to Rome, and we've looked at Rome, we should technically pick up evidence. So in the action, remember 8 may be this issue around biology here, if we're dealing with vampiris, because there are big death numbers here. The next day, 9 portal sequence also brings around 18, 9 death. Children, look at these motherfuckers here. In the +9 outcome, so well, it's here in the intention, they're raping boys, right? Sodomites. In the +9, day 3, 49, 13, 4. They grouping up. They just herding boys. I would imagine boys mainly. The 4 energy speaks about male, right? And I mean, I would say obviously probably male and female children, 13, 4. But there's definitely a male energy going on here. And when you got 14 5s in the intention, that's the intention. 14 5, older men, younger boys or girls. It can also be older women, younger boys or girls. So in the +6, day 3, look at all these. We got chaos here. 9's chaos. This is where gods, the small gods, are running rampage, smashing vases of water and wine while being chased by hoarding Roman men. vampiris, and it's debauched. So we got 50 outcome 5 in the lens of a human activity, 50 outcome 5, those debauched parties, that the number, this is the number that you don't want to see around children. And yet, yeah, we have all the children here. They are being fed in families, political circles. So this would also conclude 56:11:2, 57:12:3, 58:13:4. Conclude that this was a well-organized society even at this stage. (45 BC). Hopefully at some point I may have heard someone mention as we're watching. I'll say it anyway, it's not a bad thing. Because there's always been the question, like the question around Tesla, right? How does that guy live for 80 years? And he was born pre-industrialization, right? So in those days, if you got sick, you're in shit, yo. And yet, he lives well into his 80s. Perhaps even walking this planet again with another sleeve. But be that as it may, because his numbers are full of 17/8s. I mean, if you wanted to get a quote from a gecko, he would probably provide one. So we have government conflicts coming into this 10-1, the usual thing. It's always about politics, government, money. But we certainly have chaos here. Debauched pigs. Now, the reason why I highlighted these 6s here, so in the intention, on the second day, if we now switch optics and we go creature feature, so we got the hordes, vampiri, but there's others around as well. And I've just been given that same bloody image again. The number 6 can speak about serpents, snakes, people. And I was meaning to look into, and possibly we can do it, if this is the case, there's definitely reptiles around as well. I picked it up on another reading before. Reptiles are around. And the image I received, beg your pardon, it almost looks like a black mamba type snake. And if that is the case, because then it also speaks about these 5s in the middle, because the 5s and 14-5 groupings speaks about it's not, and the next day actually starts with the 5 as well. So it says, on one hand, that things aren't actually, I want to use the word kosher for a colloquial expression. In other words, it's not a 12-3 hunky-dory, it's a 21-3, we've been forced into this situation. And yeah, in the +9, here's it here, actually 21-3, it's... And in other words, when all new governments are formed, and I suppose we can look at Trump today, right? I mean, his policies are really causing big impacts, right? And the impacts, the people that are feeling the impact will represent the 21-3. So even back in the day, even Mr. Julius Caesar has to appease a certain party. Now, who in that matter, now thinking about it like that, if you Julius Caesar of the day, and you made king of the day, let's use that a little bit lightly, but you know what I mean. He is the main guy. Given the context of the day, do you think he's going to say to another human being, living in the next province. Well, when I'm king, I'll give you half the land anyway, because there's this deal, and there is an issue here. Look in the +9, this 10-1 issue. 1 plus 10-1. We're seeing it around these higher ups. In particular, Donald Trump is where we've been picking it up. But whenever you're dealing with organizational level, the group 10-1. So why does the king, Julius Caesar, who would become even known today in colloquial language, pay to Caesar what is due to Caesar? 5. So who's he succumbing to as well? And why would he be succumbing to something? So what I'm saying is, in the intention, although there's all laws and appeasing, yes, it says here 11.2 is 2. There's 2 parties being considered here. For the better of the family, for the better of society, for the better of rule, because God forbid you don't feed the horde. And what do the horde want? 49, 13, 4s. 58, 13, 4s. 13, 4s. Now, I could be wrong, but we're picking up patterns here. And at some point, I mean, where I find relevant, we will look for similar examples. But we see the horde is present. But why is there all this difficulty before the horde and after the horde? Something's not completely right here either. And when I was looking at these 6s, I kept on getting the feel of snakes. I needed to check Harry Potter. Harry Potter. Remember Harry Potter? They had the serpent clan there, wasn't it? Alright, so I'm just going to drop in an insert here. This is post the main recording, Harry Potter. I thought, let's just add this in. And by the way, that famous lightning bolt on his forehead or wherever, the use of the lightning bolt in the naming is a satanic demon symbolism, the lightning bolt. So if you ever wondered why there's so many lightning bolts around in imaging logos, now you know why. In Harry Potter, they got basilic. What's it? Basilics. Basilics, however you want to pronounce it. The Serpent of Slytherin. 993 to 29 May 1993 was a female basilisk that was placed by Slytherin in the Chamber of Secrets at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. The basilisk could only be controlled by the heir of Slytherin, and in the movie version, Tom Riddle. So what is it? A giant magical serpent with poisonous fangs, also known as the King of Serpents, bred by dark wizards. So yeah, even Harry Potter. Now, interestingly, when I was making my transition into the entertainment industry, I received a message called Harry. And at the time, I actually said, who the fuck is Harry? And in those days, so we're talking 92, 93, I would think of Dirty Harry, the cop movie, right? And then several years later, whenever this was all published and revealed, we find Harry Potter. So another circle for me in terms of monitoring this. I never watched the full series, but certainly we have demonic issues here, demon issues, satanic issues, and we find information about serpent kings. So when we look at people's literature, even movies, In fact, we should have a look at that book at some point to see what is behind page 1. What is behind the front cover that we're not seeing with Harry Potter? So, long story short, we got the Slytherins there, or whatever, the snakes. I got a definite impression there were snakes around here. Now, I know I haven't gone this deep in my life before, right? You only hear what you hear, see what you see, other people's channels. But definitely well organized enough to, of course, I mean, it only changed, 1500 years later plus. 1500 years, 30 years. So this structure stayed for a very long time. It was solid. Built on law, 47, it's all law. 47.11.2 law. Control of the population, 48.12.3. Control of communities, 12.3. 3 in the middle of the day is about control, community, and procreation, obviously important to keep the communities going. Production of children, or I should say reproduction of children. Not production, 58. Unfortunately, 58.34 is not production of children. It's quite the opposite. Sorry to say. So I will say the energy around these, while I've been working in the background on the portal shows and the first one, the energy is definitely around. And I must say, because this is how we must discern, where's this energy coming from? Is it ancient? Where's it from? So if it pings on me or for whatever, I know where it's from or who it is, what it is, etc. Right? That's all part of your growth, becoming a medium, playing the card game that I'd showed on a podcast, is getting in tune with the energy. And of course there's obviously always a reason why I had to delay it slightly, but here we are in a restless place like Paris is. Now, I'm bringing in this information because we need to understand context where this all began. So I thought, as a bit of interest, of course, you can skip, hop, jump, whatever you feel like doing, but we're going to go deep on these episodes. Let's really get chunky cheese, because the purpose, once we've done most of the ancient portals, we need to come forward and start getting a bigger picture of migration, movement, temperature, see what is going on. So Julius Caesar, look at all the ones in his date of birth. Born July 1200 BC. Imagine being born July 1200 BC. So we have the July the 7, 1231. So 7, as we saw in the change of the calendar, 7 is very prominent, very good spiritual number. Of course, those that siphon blood and live by the dark means, of course, plagiarize or just debauch good things, right? We'll see them on the flip side. 12.3, so the 100 gives us the 1. Now he's born with triple ones, and in the middle of his day numbers are 19, 10, 1. So military operations, big operations. Outcome 2, 11, 2, 2. So big business numbers, you can deal with bigger groups. Of course, the grouping population, well, I stand to be corrected. But Parliament has a few more people these days, or Cabinet has a few more people these days than these murdering bastards. This is, of course, a depiction of the horror that would arrive or beseech Mr. Julius Caesar on March 15. So there's no really anomalous about his numbers. The only thing I would say is 13, 4, 22, 4 in some ways speaks about building an empire. 22-4 is the builder, the big builder. But I also feel he was meant to write a lot of stuff. So I don't know if he wrote a lot of things. A bit of a philosopher, books. Let's put it this way: if he wasn't ever a warrior or politician, he could have been a good author or a philosopher. He has 16-7 in the middle. On one hand, it's a legal number. It also speaks about justice, human frailties, very intuitive number. As we know, 16-7 is the psychic. Intuition probably played a decent role in his day-to-day. And you'd say, how did I know that? 1 + 1 = 2. How was I supposed to know that before we even invented numbers? 26-8, 17-8. So unfortunately, this is where we'll find his aggroness, his violence, taste for blood. So in his +9, we also have a 21-3 here. And probably the reason why then we have these 111s chaos. So something, was this like a birth of convenience or a marriage of convenience, or born because of title deed, born because of heir to the Roman Empire, whatever. It's not necessarily Joseph and Mary fell in love first and then had a child. Maybe arranged marriages in these days. Rich company or rich family number 1 married rich family number 2. 29-11-2, as we know, can be a very detrimental number. In some ways, we can say he defined the law, because isn't Roman law still practiced today in the courts? Yeah? So that's one positive aspect. It's like the super Mickey Mouse of law. On the one hand, then on the other, the bloody hand. I'm sure he had his moments. So, unfortunately, when his fellow politicians turned on him, he probably thought, what? This should never happen to me. Interesting, the year that he is attacked, 44-8, attacked and murdered, we see a 44-8, the grand master plan of all things. Hidden 21-3, you see there, that number, there's certain numbers that will follow you around if there's a problem. And there's this 21-3, so the 21-3 can speak about maniacal control. It can speak about obsessive compulsive on another level. It's the kind of control that kills people. 29-11-2. Attack, very violent, 8s. And on a portal sequence. Oh my God, I didn't see that before. Brutus, et tu brute. Julius Caesar is assassinated on a portal sequence. And we know in these days, if we believe like solar calendar, the oracles, all the dark, deep magic, whatever they want to call it. Let's go speak to the oracle. On a portal sequence, ladies and gentlemen. Julius Caesar is murdered on a portal sequence, high energy. It would ricochet through eternity. 44.8, all in or out, one can surmise. All in or out, whether stabbing or jeering on the sidelines. I think he was hated by everyone. 65.11.2, that speaks about the populace. 56 speaks about his fellow saboteurs. 29.11.2, the brutal murder number. Live by the sword, die by the sword. Here's his numbers here. These are all his numbers. Impact directly on him. 29.11.2, 22.11.2.2. 29.11.2, 22.11.2.2. See, 6 brings in the knives, 6. So many knives, of course, as we know, this the fable or the story as we go. But why 68.14.5? 59.14.5? Somehow it seems familiar, but it's not given for me. So for politics, yes, okay, let's look here. Politics, it's the grouping, expulsion. 14.5 is the smaller group. 23.5 the larger community. 32.5 breaking of that community. So there might have even been other people on the side of Julius who also may have been attacked and killed that night. So it wasn't only Julius Caesar that night by the looks of things here as well. There may have been whoever stood with Julius Caesar on that day, even moments before they may have even been said, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" So you see here, interestingly, in the +9, it starts with a 7. Remember I said there's a 7 around this guy. Well, he's born in July. But it just feels significant for some reason. And we saw the 7, there was influence in the calendar, I believe. In the +6, day 1 of the calendar change, there's the 7. So there's a significant 7 here. And the death of the 7 is revealed here in the +9. So his justice and law was coming to an end. Interesting. A whole new way of looking at history. How interesting. Brutus murdered on a portal sequence. So there's evidence. There's pure evidence of solar chart awareness, energy awareness, portal sequence awareness. Back in 44 BC. 44 BC, they were cooking the goose already. Call the oracle. We must make sacrifices to the oracle. It would become other things later on in life. Alright, so we've got our background. Let's go into, I believe, one of the initial main dates, Treaty of Verdun. And interestingly, August 10, 843, this is AD, Anno Domino. We have the 18.9 in the middle, portal sequence with the 6s. Now, this was a time, and I'm not going to recount history in depth. All the history boffins, you know more than I do. You're also welcome to research into this. The time when this actually happened, the actual treaty, as I believe, was actually signed in what we know today as the Netherlands. The treaty saw the division of 3 pieces of land, country. As time would roll on, we know that this section here would become pretty much Europe, as we know today, Italy, etc. But what are the numbers saying? And we have a portal sequence here. Now, on one hand, there is 15556. We note the 336. So already we find ourselves with an ancient portal once again, having revisited the origins of the Julian calendar. We found a portal sequence. There's a portal sequence in the death and murder of Julius Caesar. So we can say already that the practice of energy, and it would have developed or changed over time, sound resonance. This is where we can harness energy on these days, if for positive or for negative. Now we see a 33-6 here, and all of these 6s speak about human beings, humans. We have the presence of the 8. What is going on behind the scenes? So we see the portal sequence in the birth. Now we have in the intention. So in the intention we're talking about new beginnings, 13:4. We forging a new community, 12:3. This is effectively, if I need to reinforce it, the origins and creation of France and Europe as we know it, right? But hidden, we have the 21:3 again. We can all agree, whenever there's a new government or a new system or a new treaty or a new act or new constitution, not everyone is going to be happy. Again, when we see 36:9, 27:9, 18:9, these numbers have no relevance. So let me just say this. Well, I think and feel these particular 9s are not positive 9s. And these 9s, and particularly these numbers, have nothing to do with the separation of territory, creating territory. These would be more, if it was a church event, if it was a religious event, I would say, okay, these numbers can make sense. Now, in the action, interestingly, we see 3 15-6s here. So on one hand, if we take it on the literal, these are the 3 people that received the land and territory. It's about seizing control, 39-12-3, for the greater mass community, 30 outcome 3. Not everyone's going to be happy, 21-3, but there's a new community being forged. And we see the presence of a hidden 24-6. Now, if we had to surmise, and we go back to as early as far back as 45 BC, we know the presence of the horde. We know the integration into families even. Government, families are the 4s. Government are the 5s. There's integration already. So when we get on more than 843 years later, we see presence of 16-7, which in some respects would represent the horde. we see there is something has caused an imbalance here. Who is this hidden 24-6? Is the 24-6 related to the 16-7? And the reason why I don't like these 9s here is because we see numbers like 33-6, sacrificial. But more alarming is also the 42-6, destruction of families. There's a destruction of family that has taken place here as well. This picture in one hand depicts a division. And of course with maps there is a natural division. Of course divisions are created. But there's a hidden intention that is revealed in the outcome. If we want to get 33-6 level, sacrifices, 42-6 speaks to that. There's an 18-9 in the middle of the day here. 18-9, murder. 19-10-1, operational. So unfortunately, when this treaty came in, it came with the usual suspects, 33-6, 18-9, 19-10-1, mass control, 39-12-3. The humans are in peril. So we go forward 30 odd years, 20 years. Seeing the 16-7 year now, that's why, I mean, when we look back like this, we are looking at, or I'm trying to look at when, how, where did infiltration begin? We know the horde is around. Now keep in mind, if we go back to the main map here, the horde is in Italy. We're now in France, Paris. Odd years before, we see a hint, 16-7. Why are all the humans scattering around? 16-7. Now, 30 years later, a new treaty is arranged on August the 8th, 870. We see a 888 conflict. We spoke about this before, vampiri issues, biology issues, intermingling, breeding, 16-7 present with human beings or creation of some kind, human beings, 15-6. They're not all going to work out, 31-4, so it brings around quite a bit of death. One can imagine the early days of medicine, what that looked like. Johnny, just bite down on this piece of wood. We're going to start with an amputation. Right, hold your breath. Terrible, man. 22-4 family number. Pairing to create families. 13-4 new creations. when I saw this double 8 conflict, where am I seeing this before? We go back to Rome. Pope Gregory the 13th. There's a part of something's running around in this guy here still. 8 plus 8. Now, yes, he's one figure. But remember, vampiri, like anything else in life, will carry a code. 8 plus 8, 16, 7. Eight plus 8, 16, 7. So let's go deeper. You see here, and we have the identity of Big Earth. Now who's on the precipice as well? 17.8 is the conflict. Those that have more advanced technology. Those that don't have to live in holes, live underground, hide from the sun, which has caused an issue 25.7. We have two gods on scene, 17.8 and 16.7. Where's 17.8 from? Big Earth. 40 outcome 4. What is going on here? Here we are seeing an operation taking place, 19.10.1. Ironically, the universe is seeing it as illegal, 11.2. Or on the other hand, we can talk about the 17.8s and 16.7s coming together. In the action, it creates difficulties, 14.5. Not everyone's going to be happy. And look at these big operational numbers, 37.10.1. We have a developed system in play, 870 AD. And unfortunately, they also share a purpose, breeding. Ladies and gentlemen, we continue to find evidence, organized societies, and we have ancient presence already, 45 BC horde, vampiri. There's also presence of 17.8 aliens. Large systems in place already, 55.10.1. (56.11.2). Portal sequences are being used at every important date change. So this is the thing, like even if we had to take, for example, when Trump takes office, that's another landmark time. We'll have a look soon when we get into the US. I thought remember James Bond's, the early James Bonds, they would always put the name of the next movie in their credits. Did you ever see that? On the big map, we're going to go do a straight line, and we're going to include London. We're going to include London, so that's where we'll be going next. And we know there are many, many moments of portal sequences. Things in the UK have an origin story for sure. And I look forward to investigating what we find in London, because I do believe it has one of the most key, significant portals around the world. And please share your thoughts and comments on the series, on the episode. We can continue going deeper on portals that we've even covered later on. We do an introduction into portals, and we'll see how they all fit in together. And please enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now.